So here we have Sanders urges progressives to back Biden despite Gaza policy. And like I said, it was written on the 10th by Nick Robertson. Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee Chairman Bernie Sanders, independent of Vermont, speaks at a hearing to discuss the high prices of prescription drugs in the United States on Thursday, February 8th, 2024. That's the picture.
It's a very good picture of him.
Mm-hmm. Senator Bernie Sanders, independent, Vermont, urges his progressive supporters to vote for President Biden in November, despite the difference in opinion over his response to the Israel-Hamas war and the growing popularity of protest vote movements in Democratic primaries. Sanders, who has pushed Biden to back a temporary ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war, and
Temporary ceasefire. That's not what people want, Bernie.
permanent. It should be permanent.
Mm-hmm.
And cut off military aid to Israel over civilian casualties and a lack of humanitarian aid reaching Gaza, told progressives to come together.
He's given permission to say those things because to some people, it looks like the Democrats really care. But he hasn't been pushing very hard on those things.
No.
He really hasn't. Not that I've seen anyway. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, and this is from The Hill. That's
Yeah. Okay. Quote, if you believe that climate change is real, you've got to vote for President Biden. Why? Sanders said in a CBS Face the Nation interview with Barbara Brennan. Quote, if you believe that women have a right to control their own bodies, you've got to vote for President Biden. Now that is crazy talk because we know that where the climate is concerned and where women's choice is concerned, the Democratic Party doesn't care.
The Democratic Party, as we said at the time, they've had 50 years to codify. They had 50 years to codify Roe v. Wade and never did. Yeah. Obama even said after he was elected, it's not my priority right now. So, give me a break.
They used it as a way to get donations.
Oh, yeah, they fundraised a lot. That was 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
2 years ago? And that was another set of rallies I would not go to.
No.
And I used to be, and when I lived in New Jersey, I would go to 2 or 3 rallies a week. I was a Green Party candidate for office 3 times in the last 5 years that I lived in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. So I was going to campaign events and meetings, activist meetings. And then I stopped. Why would I go to a rally, on this issue if the only thing would be to raise more money for the Democratic Party?
Exactly.
Better off speaking out against what the Democrats, what the Republicans and the Democrats are doing.
Now, even here, Sanders went on, listing the importance of fighting against wealth inequality and tax breaks, and to lower prescription drug prices and preserve democracy. But nobody listens to him.
Well, but, how good has Biden been on those issues? Fighting against wealth inequality and tax breaks, lowering prescription drug prices. He wants to maintain the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
Joe Biden does.
Right. He's part of the corporate wing.
Yeah, and then to preserve democracy, I think we've said this before, but let me highlight it again. It came out yesterday or the day before that the U.S. has sent 100 shipments of weapons to Israel since October 7th. 100. But none of it needed legislative approval, okay, because the amount was just under the threshold required for the legislature to vote on it. Democracy?
That is not democracy.
No. It's the exact opposite.
Opposite.
Here's the money. We're going to keep sending you money. We know we need money for roads in the U.S. We know we need more subsidized housing, rent controlled housing. The rents are way too high. We know we need energy plans. We know. And we keep saying it at our State of the Union address. We'll say it. Meanwhile, shipping all this money, to support genocide,
Yeah,
violent genocide.
and both parties in their of the Union address, it's always to improve different things in the USA, and we don't see anything.
No, it's people know what rhetoric to use, um, and they use it well. Um, yes, Joe, they sent more weapons before October. They've been sending $3.8 billion annually,
Yeah,
and you know, um, and Joe says Democrats, Republicans, Independent are three parts of one bird. Dems and Republicans are the left, if you can call them that, and right wings and independent are the tail feathers. It's a good description. Thanks, Joe, for that one. All right, go on.
okay. The contrast between Biden and Trump is day and night, he said. Really? The
Oh, I'm
election.
sorry. Let me add Andy Candy's thing here too.
Okay.
Sorry, I meant to. Biden the butcher looks like the banjo boy from Deliverance. All right, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay. The election of Trump would be a disaster for this country. And in my view of the world, we've got to come together, re-elect Biden. But at the same time, we have to demand that we have a progressive agenda where we have an economy that works for all, not just a few. But we don't have a progressive agenda. Everything is to the right.
Yeah, I'm reminded of that. Some of those line dances. To the right, to the
To the
right,
right, to the
to
right,
the right.
to you off the cliff.
Three jumps this time. Don't. To the right. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. The We're
Yeah,
headed
right.
right over the cliff.
Cliff.
Right over the cliff because we keep moving further and further
Further,
and further
further.
and further to the right.
Hmm. Progressives and other Democrats have slammed Biden's response to the war in Gaza, launching an, quote, uncommitted protest vote movement that has garnered tens of thousands of supporters nationwide. The, quote, uncommitted vote took a sizable 19% of the vote in the Minnesota primary last week after a strong performance in Michigan a week before. Sanders said that progressives should stop those critiques of Biden, but rather keep up the pressure and vote
Should,
for Biden in the general election when it counts.
shouldn't stop those critiques of
Oh
Biden.
yeah, okay.
But how much teeth will those critiques of Biden have if you vote for him?
You're saying that we're okay if you vote for him. We're
You're
okay
rewarding him
with
for bad
everything.
behavior. Yeah.
Exactly, you're right. Quote, I am saying we've got to calm, not put it aside. The fight continues to change Biden's policies in Gaza, he said. But Biden's not going to change it. We saw in
We,
the other article before who's running the show in Gaza.
yeah, and we also saw his performance at the State of the Union.
Yeah.
And we know